guys for tuning in. You're listening to the Knobheads with me, David Ekunno, and
Charlie Miller.
All right, this is gonna be the best episode we've ever fucking done. I'm excited. We have a guest, and I'm gonna introduce you. How should I introduce this guy? This guy,
I'm nobody.
Don't fucking talk until I say your name. All right. So this guy, I knew him in university. We both did. Me and Charlie. He kind of brought us. Well, he brought me in. I don't know. You can talk in a second, but to be honest, because I came here 5 years ago, just a poor Englishman that doesn't really know his whereabouts. I joined TSU. None the wiser that it was a black school, and that was great in the end. But I didn't know I was a timid kid, and this guy kind of just took me under his wing, and he showed me some things, and I don't just mean that sexually.
Oh my god!
So it's just, he's a great guy. I was just saying this before the podcast started that you have this great way of bringing people together in a room. You did that for your birthday, like we talked about. It's not the sexiest thing to do. It doesn't look great when everyone comes in the room and they have to say, "Hi, my name is this. Hi, my name is that," to about 2,500 people because you have an endless amount of friends. But it does do something good to the energy that just makes people feel a bit more connected. And this guy is Andre Wagner.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, cool. So did you want to say anything about Andre?
He ain't shit.
There
Let's get to
you go. Good cop, bad cop. I like it.
Nah, I kid.
Appreciate it.
Andre is brother. He is a great friend. He is just all around wonderful person. Just like David said, basically to piggyback, he is a person who specializes in just making sure everybody in the room is all just on the same page. Everybody is the same good positive energy. We're all laughing, we're all joking, we're all getting something to eat or drinking or whatever and stuff. He's a great person. So yeah, definitely.
Again, all I can say is thank you guys for having me here. I'm just glad I could join you. I am I would say a patron, but I am someone who listens to the program, so I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Well, hey, there you go.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name's Andre Jerome Wagner, and the thing I like to say is that I'm from everywhere, or if I want to be really sexy, I'll say I'm like when people ask where you're from, I'll say todo el mundo, like I'm from the world, and it's like make it exotic, but in reality, like my dad was in the military.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. But I embrace who I am, but my dad was in the military, so I just moved a lot of places. And
how many places have you lived? Go on, name right now.
Okay.
Go on.
So Turkey, California,
Yeah.
Kentucky, New Mexico, Ohio, Texas, North Carolina, and we stayed a little bit in Germany, but not really.
That's far too many places. How old are you? Don't answer that.
I'm old, but not that old.
You're seasoned, dude. You're just distinguished.
You're only as old as you feel.
And I appreciate each year I'm given.
How old do you feel?
That's weird. Honestly, before I felt like when I was working on the university's campus, I felt like I was in my early 20s the entire time. Like I felt like I was in my early 20s.
We could tell.
But then as being off campus and then actually working in the real life, it's like, oh no, I actually went for New Year's this year, I went to the High Tower in Midtown, and I was like, oh no, I'm not used to this anymore. I'm ready to slow it down a little bit. We had a very wonderful time, and needless to say, I was like,
ready for a different phase.
I need to be at home, or whatever.
And something more chill. Or
yeah, a little bit more chill of an environment, but it was cool. It was a great time. Probably my last, at least.
What of being
lately?
Being out late, partying and shit. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean for New Year's, going to a midtown bar where it's super live and going hard, and it's
which bar did you go to?
The High Tower.
Oh no, I didn't even know that one.
Yeah, it's right off of it's right next to Specs. So right Dogwood,
Perfect.
Over there, yeah, like it's Midtown area. Yeah, bro, perfect location. You know,
Yeah.
you can buy a bottle and then go to the bar.
Pre-drink and then do your thing. All right, let's start with Trump impeachment. How much do you know about this, Charlie? The impeachment going on. Impeachment.
I know just a tad bit. I'm not like no expert or nothing like that, but yeah, apparently something about needs to be impeached because he was trying to have Russia, I guess.
Nope. It's not Russia, it's Ukraine.
You know what the fuck I mean.
So, I mean, I literally read about it today. I didn't know anything about it before. I still don't know anything about it. I read about it for about 10 minutes, and I was like, this is bullshit.
Well, you know, your shirt is quite apropos,
I
I
know.
have to say.
Yeah, I
Like,
wish we filmed this podcast episode.
If you can see the shirt, it would
Yeah,
be
someone
like,
describe it for the podcast.
I guess it's like "Make Christmas Great Again" with a wonderful picture of the Grinch who stole Christmas in the world.
It looks good.
Yeah.
It's my color. It's red.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I read about the impeachment, so he's been impeached on 2 counts apparently. So first count is abuse of power because he got Ukraine. Apparently, they're accusing him of having Ukraine meddle in the 2020 elections, and the second one is going to be what is it? Obstruction of Congress.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a little different. So what like
No.
I want it to be ignorant.
No, you're good. Honestly, I
Yeah,
like it. So like for the obstruction, for the breach of power, like needless to say, he's overreached because he's asked Ukraine to investigate the Democratic nominee,
exactly.
the Democratic nominee, and so he asked the president of Ukraine after he was just newly elected, and have you, of course, like if you've been watching what's happening in Ukraine, half their country right now has been sort of taken over by Russia, and so like their only way of fighting against Russia or like rebels that are backed by Russia is the United States. The United States is giving them like howitzers and different missiles and a lot of arms and giving them money. And so we're really paying for them to just hold on to their territory. So imagine somebody like your parent, or not even your parent, your big brother next door is giving you a whole bunch of money, who's helping you keep your lights on and pay your mortgage.
And then basically like, oh, you still want this to keep coming. You don't have to do this for
exactly.
me.
And then your big brother or your homeboy asks you, who's giving you money every month, asks you, hey, can you do me a favor and investigate that guy across the street from me? He's giving me some problems. You don't have to, but can you please investigate that guy across the street from me? He's trying to take over my house. Guess what? You're probably gonna do the investigation. And so that's the whole point, is that like everyone said, like on the Republican side or the conservative side, they're saying that he didn't tell Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. He just asked him to investigate Joe Biden.
Okay.
And so that was the obstruction of justice, but overreach in power.
Yeah.
And then the other side is that of Congress, and that is I am so sorry. You have actually written down. It is the
No, I don't. This is the notes. This is the structure of the podcast. Keep going.
Well, needless to say,
You're teaching us.
what it is that Congress asked him for documents and individuals to come, and they subpoenaed his chief of staff. They subpoenaed the vice president. They subpoenaed a whole bunch of different officials who are part of the executive branch and told them to come to report to Congress. Congress has the ability to say, hey, you have to come talk. And Trump said, no one in my administration is going to come talk to you. No one's going to come tell you the information. It's connected to what happened in Ukraine, but still, it's the whole point. They told, even if they showed up and said, I plead the fifth, that's legally you could do that. You could just show up and say,
still gotta show up.
But you got to show up. And he said, no, I'm not sitting in my officials to come. And honestly, if he wanted to give him the middle finger, he really could have just had to say, oh yeah, you guys can go and say, I plead the fifth, and that's it. And Congress couldn't do anything about it. But because he told them not to come, that's a breach of Congress, and they have to show up.
Okay, that's interesting. It almost was like obstruction of justice, but like in the political sphere.
Exactly.
Okay, so when I read it or read about it for the 10 minutes that I read about it for, I mean, I didn't look into the ins and outs of it, so I'm glad you explained it like that so holistically. But then looking at what seems to be or what would be the outcome, it kind of seems like a moot point that they're even bringing this to his doorstep in the first place. What I read was basically that since the House voted for it to go to the Senate, I mean, the House is majority Democrat, and it was pretty much a partisan disagreement where every single Republican in the House voted opposing the impeachment, and almost every single Democrat voted against, or voted for, sorry. But then you have a situation where the Senate, who's going to decide whether it still goes forward, is majority Republicans.
Which is why I don't think he's going to be impeached.
Yeah, so it seems like dumb. Like it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not even a thought matter. It's come on, stop, dude.
You're right, but the only thing I think it's like, sort of for like posterity. So it's like, hey, what side are you going to be
history,
on?
yeah.
What side of history are you going to be on? And
but it's not that fucking deep.
Yeah.
If I asked my fucking neighbor to do it, it's not that deep. It's not like he's done something that seems like a moral fucking war crime or some shit.
It seemed like I don't know if Trump actually knows his actual power as president. I think he just be winging it half the time, and he thinks he can do X, Y, Z.
And it's working so far, though. So, you know what? I would bet money if things go as they're going right now. I bet money that Trump gets reelected.
I work for the Elizabeth Warren campaign, and so that's my job to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, do your job, please.
Yes,
because I don't necessarily want that.
Yeah, none of us do.
But I would probably bet money because I think it's going that way.
I don't think so.
Because the impeachment, I guess here's my point, and in a nutshell, I won't even fucking go on too long because I don't know what I'm talking about. But in a nutshell, Trump got voted in the first place, okay? Because there are people that voted for him, okay?
Yeah, right.
There are people on the other side of the aisle that aren't just diehard fucking Democratic, and there are enough of them to get Trump in the fucking office, okay? Mm-hmm. So everything the Democrats have done, especially now with the impeachment and talks of black reparation, I'm not saying it's something that we don't need to talk about. It's definitely a good point to bring up, but everything the Democrats are doing in this time is catering more and more to the group of people who are diehard Democrat people. So you're not winning any sort of vote. You're not expanding your vote. You're not at all winning any votes of the people who voted for Trump last election cycle. So I don't see any candidate. It feels like the platform of Democrats right now is just, I'm not Trump.
But I think you're forgetting that those Republicans who, I mean, there's a lot of Democrats and Republicans who are ignorant upon, like, their candidates that they support. But there are a lot of Republicans who, since he has been elected, they're like, nah, this was like a bad choice. What the fuck do we do? X, Y, Z. So you have to factor that in as well.
Yeah, but he's not doing something so bad that those Republicans are going more into...
He's literally... This is the thing, though. Here's the crazy part about it. There's a lot of, like, backwater redneck ass, like, fucking...
people.
White people who fucking, like, support Trump and whatnot, but they not rich. They not paid. They not getting these tax breaks. They're not X, Y, Z, da-da-da-da.
And they're gonna be Trumpers no matter what.
But here's the thing, though. That's which I think.
Well, they're going to be Republican no matter what.
Because of their racism.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just...
But the level-headed people, the level-headed Republicans are like, this fool is a clown. What are we doing?
But they're like, fucking Bernie Sanders is more of a clown. And no one on the Democratic... none of the Democratic candidates are proven to be something I want to vote for.
Anybody is a better candidate than Trump at this point.
Well, so the only thing I can say is that, I think that Elizabeth Warren is a lot better. But of course, I'm biased on that. But
disclaimer, dude.
But
it's almost like you work for her.
I mean, it's
almost like
you never would have thought. But the one thing I can say though is that in reality, like the difference in between now and 2016, is that in 2016 we won the popular vote. Like Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but we
barely lost the electoral.
In 5 states, we lost by 70,000 votes. 70,000 votes. And so it's literally the difference is that we're winning the popular vote, which we did last time. We won the popular vote, but we lost the electoral vote because in 5 states, there was 20, 30, 10,000 people who didn't show up or that we lost by.
Okay.
And so if you look at them, like, even if, let's say that Bernie Sanders is the candidate, of course, again, we wanted it to be Elizabeth Warren, but let's say it's Bernie Sanders is the candidate, the Democratic Party is going to coalesce around one person. And we are not going to have, I honestly do not see us having, where just like how last time there was individuals who supported Bernie who decided not to show up because it was Hillary Clinton. Over 100,000 people.
Stupid.
Yeah, and now they look regret it. And have you, it's one of those, like, I honestly think that no matter who is the candidate, we're not going to have the whole thing of, like, we're going to break apart and have it so that way no one supports one person. There's going to be one candidate we're all going to follow behind. And then that 70,000 vote difference, we're not going to have the difference. There's over 100,000 Bernie supporters who didn't show up because they didn't like Hillary Clinton.
So you're thinking like this second bat at it is kind of like the Democrats should be incentivizing those people that didn't vote first time to actually show up, and that will make the difference.
And then not only that, but also we're gonna do everything else to really get our base, make sure we get talk to people. Like honestly, the discussion about reparations, I think it's a good conversation to have. I'm not sure if that's one right now, but it was whole point is that that's something the different things that are going on in society. I think we need to talk about them because they're real.
I think we do need to talk about them. I for sure. And if this was a more ideal world, I think we should bring it up as soon as it becomes an issue, which is probably sooner than now. But I think strategically, just it is the way it is. Just like we have America. I'm not going to say we until I'm a citizen, I guess. But America has the electoral vote, the electoral college system, and there is just strategy around it to make sure that you get the results you want.
Yes.
So I think talking about certain things like the black reparations thing and making that a big thing within the Democratic candidates is not a good timing, because all you're doing is you're getting double the investment from the candidates that are already going to vote for you, and they can't vote twice. And what you're doing more so is you're creating this, or you're not creating this thing, but you're talking to this topic that
basically you're saying,
for whatever reason, alienates the people that are going to vote for Republicans or that are in the middle a little bit.
Basically, you're saying instead of attacking real issues that may sway some fence people, you're doubling down upon stuff that's obvious for the hardcore Democrats.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, the Democrats aren't gaining any voters. But I see what you're saying, that Trump just being in office is kind of incentivizing people who didn't vote last election cycle to vote this one.
And I'm not even just saying that, but also like when you look at it, like again, of course, I work for Elizabeth Warren. One of the things is that like,
fifth plug, dude.
what do you do?
Are we going to take a shot every time he plugs in?
There we go. Let's go. But like
podcast listeners, take a shot every time this guy mentions Elizabeth Warren's name.
We are gonna get messed up. I'm telling you.
We would be messed up right now.
Exactly.
But no, like the one thing is like a lot of the things they're talking about, like with free college, I think that really talks to the masses about having this free college and also debt reduction. For the Elizabeth Warren plan, is not to get rid of all student debt; it's to get rid of 80% of students of college student debt, to where up to $50,000. So if you went to go get your PhD, or you went to get your doctor, you could probably afford to pay those bills. You went to med school, you can pay that off. But if it's underneath $50,000, and even if you went to med school, but if it's underneath $50,000, that will be forgiven as long as you aren't making $1 million a year. Not $1 million. It's like $250,000. It's $250,000. So if you make underneath $250,000, then it's up to $50,000 of student loan debt will be forgiven. Like mine, I have $46,000 in student loan debt. Thank you, Texas Southern University. Have you is because I'm an out-of-state student, and so Texas has out-of-state fees, so I had to take out those student loans because I wanted to go to college. But $46,000 of student loans, and because I make underneath $250,000, I want Elizabeth Warren elected so I can get my student loans also forgiven. Have you not just for me, but also for everyone.
Also for me.
Let's go.
Let's go.
And I think that's a good one where it's like, even though it's a little bit more progressive, and there's a lot of things that are progressive, but those are one of those common sense things that opens it up to everybody.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. That's something I didn't know about, because of course I know. But whenever I hear things like that, it kind of makes me think, okay, but where's the money coming from?
We're taxing the wealthy. Yes. We are taxing the wealthy. There's no lie about it. We're taxing the wealthy. Yes. The billionaires are going to pay more in taxes. Elizabeth Warren has a plan. And not only that, but also like, all Democrats do. I'm just saying, yes.
Also take a shot. Take a shot. You just said Elizabeth
Warren. I mean, but there's all different types of ways of playing for it. Elizabeth Warren's plan is to have so that you do a 2-cent tax on every dollar over $50 million. So if you make $50 million and $50 million and $1, that $1 pays a 2-cent tax. Not the other $50 million. Underneath $50 million, you pay the regular property. You pay your regular income tax.
Woo, but anything over, how much Jeff Bezos getting taxed?
But anything over $50 billion,
Jeff Bezos ain't paying shit.
And that's exactly the point, because a lot of these companies like Amazon, Google, so and so forth, all these big companies, like they have stock options, and they have it so that way, like literally, what is his name? What's the guy? The not Wolf of Wall Street. He's the acclaimed guy. He lives in like Wisconsin or Minnesota.
Is he old? Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett.
Okay.
Warren Buffett, he was big on talking about it, that his tax rate is lower than his secretaries. This is, when Hillary ran and everything else. Like, oh, it was Obama. His tax rate is lower than his secretaries because his income comes from his stock options and his holdings. And in reality, he has all the stuff that's invested, and they pay on their taxes. It's so low that it's less than what you and I pay right now.
Yeah.
We pay 20-30% in our on income taxes.
Yeah.
They're not paying that because they get it in stock options.
Right. They find ways around it, and that's what the rich have been doing since the beginning of America, I should say.
Yes, and instead it would be changing it to be based off of your assets instead of your income.
Oh, interesting.
Assets.
So can't escape that.
No, can't escape that. Oh, your yacht outside is now taxable. And before, it's not taxable because it's...
Unless you Keanu Reeves.
No.
He lives a simple life.
Yeah,
That's really interesting. He does live a simple life. That guy's like the most down-to-earth guy ever.
I know. I really do want to
rich.
meet him.
He would just be like another guy. It's crazy. He'd be like, was that Keanu Reeves or was that just a guy?
That was a Keanu Reeves impersonator.
You guys should invite him on the show.
We should.
He would come, dude.
Neo!
I'm gonna email him.
Part of me feels like he's gonna walk in the room right now.
Yeah, he would come, dude.
That's some Keanu Reeves type shit too. He will walk in the room.
I guess I'm supposed to be here, or what's happening?
A different apartment,
or whatever. Should I sit down?
I'd be like, oh snap. Well, it was cool talking to you, Andre, but
well, I'm just gonna sit in the back of the room. It's fine.
All right, so let's go into black reparations and what we think about that, since we're talking about the Democrats and how black reparations has actually been a hot topic right now, and it's kind of come up again. First of all, do we think it's possible? Is that something? No, you know what? Is it a good idea? Let's go to is it a good idea first?
Yes.
All right, Charlie wants to speak. Go on. Tell us why it's a good idea.
I believe it's definitely a good idea. Obviously, it won't be no 40 acres and a mule type shit for, what was it, every family of 4 or 5 or something like that. But I believe they can modernize it to where it's like, okay, just like Andre said, somehow something do it, okay, we pay for college education, or okay, we can give you stock options or something. Just something to help give black people a leg up to where we're doing better and whatnot. I don't think you should give people
who gets it.
That was another thing. I think that'll make it difficult though, because it's so far removed.
Yeah,
it's so far removed, from when slavery ended to now, that it's kind of hard. You can't give it to every single black person because some black people family wasn't slaves.
Like the Brits.
Exactly. David shouldn't get none.
So immigrants don't get any, but every person who can prove linkage to slavery in their family gets a cut of the reparations.
I think that's how it should be. Yes.
Honestly, the only thing I think about is that, and so I really just like to think about the justification for it. And so if you think about it, so 150 years ago, America took the land from the Native Americans, shipped them off to Oklahoma in the Trail of Tears, where a third of them died. And then we decided, here, whoever the person's name is, Willie Bell, go ahead and go, and the first person to this piece of land gets it for free. You don't have to pay tax on it. You don't have to do anything with it. Just go. We stole this land from these Native Americans, and now anyone who lands on it, it's now yours. All you need to do is just build something on it. And Maybell and everybody else went out there, and you had the Oregon Trails where everybody went out there. It was a great video game when I was in college. I mean, did anyone play Oregon Trail? Did you guys play that?
No, we
okay.
played fucking Mario Kart.
Okay, I played Oregon
Super
Trail.
Smash Bros.
And so,
Exactly.
anyways, like, okay, I guess, a little older. But Oregon Trail's out there, and you go out there, and the first one there lands on the property, you get it. And that's crazy when you think about it, but African Americans, Native Americans, and Asian Americans were not privileged to be able to be a part of that. And so literally there's a class in American society. A lot of people say, oh no, I didn't get anything from prospering from that. But if you think about it, your great-great-grandparents received land for free and from which your entire wealth is based on. And so maybe they might have messed up a little bit, but think about it. Your family started off many steps ahead of ours. And then now, oh yeah, everything's equal now, but you have 100 years, supposedly, you have 100 years of wealth that's been invested in your family that now you are based off of. Like, that is why, I understand the justification for reparations, because it's one of those things that it wasn't but 60 years ago that we were allowed to go to the same school. Well, like I said, 50, 60 years ago. 50 years ago, we're allowed to go to the same schools, let alone getting free land. I'm sorry. Anyways, just saying.
It's true. So there's definitely an ethical reasoning back in the idea of black reparations. And then...
Sorry for getting so serious.
No, that's what we want.
Yeah,
I'm failing to feed off your energy correctly because...
Oregon Trails.
What do I want to ask next?
Iran. I want to talk about Iran.
No, I want to keep on black reparations.
Oh, okay. Black reparations, I like.
Because it makes sense, like there's an ethical reason for it, but then the practicality of it would be... So what would it look like? What would it be, like payments? Like, would it be to do with college? Like, how would it... What makes sense that, one, well, I guess this is the only thing that does matter, that that black Americans who are unfortunately the victims of this history,
yes,
like what makes sense for them to even out the playing fields, basically.
And you know what's interesting? Like, so I really don't quite have like how it would be like in debate. I was on the debate team in college. It was one of the things like we like to argue based off fiat. Like, so to say we're just going to do it. Not to how to figure out how it's going to get done, but of course, in government, you can't operate off of fiat. You can't just say we're going to pay everybody $200,000 for your ancestors' pain, and that's sort of impossible. Like, the country will go broke. But I guess the argument is that, and so one thing that I did see that a small city is doing.
Okay, this is interesting.
And this is a small city that is doing it here in the United States. And what they're doing is that they're actually having it so that way they are taxing marijuana. And from their marijuana tax, then they are using that money to help give reparations to its citizens. And so it's interesting that like the method they're using, because like everything has to be paid for. Like how are you going to pay for it? And then
how did they actually deliver the reparations to black citizens who black citizens basically?
Yeah, and actually it's a monetary payment, and so it's up to $1 million fund. I'm actually trying to make sure I figure out what's the actual name of the city, so I can tell you exactly where. But Evanston, they're doing a 3-cent tax on marijuana to give people money back, and so it's supposed to generate like $1 million a year.
Wow!
To have it so that people can get paid some money back.
And that's actually, is that for slave? Like, what is that for?
It's for people it's for the children of slaves. It was interesting to me how they were doing it, but then a discussion about it is that so we're taxing ourselves to pay ourselves. Some people say that. Now, having me personally, I don't smoke weed, so it doesn't really matter to me. But like some people say that we're taxing like who are there's a large portion of the African American community that might participate in marijuana, and so therefore we're taxing them to pay them. And I'm not sure what people think about that.
Yeah, but you're still getting paid from the fund, and hopefully you get paid more than you actually, losing in tax.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. That's interesting. Okay, so then I'm thinking now of the practical, like how that actually plays out. And here's just something I worry about looking at the situation from outside in, is that you might produce a situation where you're going to produce a new set of people on either side. So a new set of black people who are going to feel like it's kind of disgusting to put a monetary value on what black people have been through and the history that America put black people through. And also people who will say that the monetary value that they put on it is just never enough, and they're just going to keep moving the goalposts and say, well, we actually want more than that because it doesn't make any sense. And then also a side or a portion maybe of white people or a portion of people who are non-black, who don't feel, a real sense of, understanding with the experience of, the history of slavery because they're not part of it, who will start to use the reparations as opportunity to say, well, okay, well, you got your cut now, so you can stop talking.
I understand that, but the one thing is that so not to say my pain's worse than yours, but to say that the Japanese Americans who were interned during World War II were given reparations for what was done to their family, and while the monetary amount may not be sufficient, it was something. It was something that was intentionally done to help give back to that community. And some people didn't accept it. Cool, you don't want your $50,000? Cool, don't take it. I will. I'll take my $50,000. Thank you, or whatever the amount it is. It could be $2,000. Whole point is it's something that I did not get before. Yeah. But I mean, it's individual's choice. And then just like for the Japanese American reparations, if the family decides not to use it, then that's on them. It's one of the things. It's just like when you get your refund check from the federal government, you don't have to cash it. You can always leave it there, and the federal government will happily take it back and use it on something else, or put it in like a slush fund. You know how the government works. So it's one of the things you can use it or you can lose it, but they'll come up with something. And so I'd rather try to intentionally do something than just sit back and say, oh well, life sucks. Deal with it.
I understand that. I think that's the only one incident of reparations in American history that has actually worked fairly well. Although it is a different situation, like you kind of slightly spoke towards. Should I even talk about why it's a different situation?
I mean, if you want.
It's just so much easier to draw a circle around the Japanese situation and go, okay, well. It's almost like you put a bunch of people, you wrongfully imprisoned a bunch of people, and then you let them out and you said, well, in their lifetime, they probably could have achieved this on average each, so we're going to give you all of that each. But racism is so much less easy to quantify, especially because especially because it didn't just stop at slavery. Not only were black people working, essentially bringing money into America because it's free labor that they're doing for these white people. But also after that, there is a long period of racism, which is unquantifiable. Like the effects of it with, for instance, redlining. That just keeps black people going further and further down in terms of, their financial output. And then white people going up and up on the backs of black people. It's just so much less easy to quantify. And of course, like you said, practically how much money can you put towards slavery and not make the country go fucking broke?
And honestly, I agree with you. The horrible thing is that now we're sort of stuck in the catch-22 of do we do what's right, but then sort of
commit financial suicide.
Okay, we commit financial suicide, but then also I really think about it as we just because it's difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't try.
That's true.
And so it's we got to do something, so even if it's piecemeal, it's better than doing nothing. And that's sort of what we're doing right now.
Piecemeal? What's piecemeal?
Piecemeal. Doing it in pieces. And so...
okay. Installments.
Installment payments. Yeah, no. I mean, I don't want an installment payment. I want my full payment.
Piecemeal.
100%.
Cute way of saying I'm broke. Give it to you in piecemeal.
Layaway. The one thing I have been like in general, I think that progressives need to do more of is like our conservative colleagues have been able to like tagline us, socialist, communist, baby killers. Like they're just like they'll throw taglines at us, and then bam, we're just labeled that. That's it. And we don't really have our quick responses to say like, oh, like ours is more intellectually, elegant. We have to say, put it out there, and then it's like it's not a tagline. It takes longer to explain. And then I talked about how we spent billions of dollars on farm subsidies, but it's really hard to say that. Let's give money to pay off college college debt. It's a little bit more nuanced, I guess.
Dude, that's part of it, man. That is fucking. I swear to God, because like it's marketing basically. The Republicans are better at marketing. The Republicans are basically like iPhones, dude.
Oh no,
they're just better at marketing. That's what it is. And then the
Android.
Democrats are not so good at marketing, and we just think that they are whatever the Republicans say they are because they're the ones shouting the fucking loudest. You guys don't know what a Samsung can do. You guys probably don't even know if a Samsung is in black and white or it's in color now. You have no idea because you're just listening to iPhones and ass.
Oh my goodness, Charlie!
Who's fucking
Charlie,
iPhone
don't you have an iPhone?
Oh, that was your
I got an
computer.
iPhone.
Oh, Charlie got an iPhone. Okay, that's cool. Well, Team
Everyone has an
Android,
iPhone.
it's okay. Love Team iPhone too. But
Yeah.
I would never buy one. Just me.
Okay, let's talk about finally. Let's talk about your actual personal involvement in politics. You can say Elizabeth Warren's name as much as you want now, and your sister, of course, who, if I remember right, is rallying to represent the District 147.
That's correct. That's
Cool.
correct. So again,
What does that mean? What does that even look like?
okay, so state representative for District 147. And so state representative, just like how you have U.S. Congress, you have state Congress you have your state legislature. And so just like the United States has a Senate and a House, like the United States government, you also have in Texas a Senate and a House. And so you have your House of Representatives, and you have your state House of Representatives, and you have your state Senate. And my sister is running to be the state representative for District 147, which is in essence Midtown, 3rd Ward, South Park, and the Hobby area. That's pretty much the area of it, and a little bit of 1st Ward and 6th Ward, if they still consider themselves that. But yeah,
What's her Instagram again?
her Instagram is Aurelia Wagner for Texas, or Aurelia Wagner, but Aurelia Wagner for Texas, AURELI. It should be AURELIA.
It's only your sister.
I know. AURELIA. Wagner, WAGNER. That's very much right there. You actually passed. Yeah. Aurelia Wagner for Texas. AURELIA. Wagner, WAGNER for Texas. Yep. All together, one word. And and so she's running for state representative. I work for right now. I'm working for, of course, Elizabeth Warren, who I work, and I'm trying to work hard to make sure that people know about her issues and her policies, and asking people to go out there and go vote for her. But in general, I also just want to ask people to go vote. That's really what we need to do. Hopefully, you vote progressive. But really, in reality, it's about us going to go vote and expressing our concerns and talking about what we believe in, whether that is conservative or progressive, voting for what we believe in and making sure that we get engaged in this process. And if you don't mind, vote for my sister, Aurelia Wagner. She's running for state representative. And if you don't live in District 147, which is 3rd Ward, South Park, Hobby area, and Midtown, then tell someone you do know. Like everyone who lives on campus at Texas University, you live in District 147. Everybody who lives at University of Houston, you live in District 147. So please register to vote, and please vote Aurelia Wagner.
Where can we vote?
So there's lots of locations. Early voting is going to be starting February 18th. Early voting is from February 18th to February 28th. Excuse me, February 18th to February 28th. So those 10 days are early voting, and election day is March the 3rd. There will be early voting on TSU's campus, also at University of Houston's campus, also at Young Library.
Where at TSU?
It's going to be at the library. It's going to be at the library at TSU's campus. I believe it's Robert J. Terry Library at Texas University. At University of Houston, it's going to be in the Student Center. or the UC, excuse me, and then for Young Library in the it's Young Library right off of Griggs. I don't know the exact address, but I know it's gonna be a Young Library. You can literally just Google it. Young Library is also gonna be early voting, as well as if you, let's say you work in the Midtown area, there'll also be there's also early voting is gonna be taking place at the West Gray Multi-Service Center, and it's right off of West Gray as well.
What about that library what's that library right next to that Wingstop?
No. They're not gonna have it there. They're gonna have it at TSU, University of Houston, Young Library over by Young Library off of Griggs Road, and also the West Gray Multi-Service Center. They're also gonna have a lot of early voting locations throughout the city, but those are the 4 inside the area, inside the district that you can go to real quick if you want to go there. If you're registered to vote, you can do that. If you aren't registered to vote, you still have time. February 3rd is the last day to register to vote for this upcoming election for the primary. So if you aren't registered, you still got about 3 weeks to get registered at your current address. And so that's
register to vote, people. Register to vote.
Yep.
Cool. Let's talk about one more thing before we let you go. I told you before the podcast starts to choose an IG post that you think is inspirational. And I guess you thought I said post IG.
I did.
But he posted it at Andre, that's ANDRE.Wagner, WAGNER. He posted that on his story, but we're going to talk about it anyway. But go follow him. So you posted a post that says, "The pessimist complains about the wind, semicolon, so pretentious. The optimist expects it to change, another semicolon, even more pretentious. And the realist adjusts the sails." And then before this, you said you are more of what?
I am more of the realist.
You identify with the realist, yeah, to adjust the sails. And then you said, Charlie, that you're between...
I'm between a realist and an optimist.
And I'm probably between a realist and a pessimist, so I'm kind of the bottom of the food chain right now. So good, though.
No, not at all.
But yeah, do you think... you said you're more of a realist. Have you been that your entire life?
No, I used to be more of like an idealist. Like, oh, the wind is going to change. It'll get better. And I definitely had it so that way in my life. And honestly, I'm quite open about it. In my life, I had a bit of a like breakdown to where I literally came to the understanding that sooner or later I'm going to die. And understanding that like I could either just go crazy or I can do something about it. Or I can just, live what I'm supposed to do, like right now. And so really my point is that, really what happened is that, Trayvon Martin and, I'm so sorry, I'm going to get the names wrong. Trayvon Martin and young lady who died at Prairie View, the African-American woman who died at Prairie View.
How'd she die? The Sandra?
Sandra Bland. Thank you very much. Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, like all these different individuals who literally they got killed because they were just black in the wrong place at the wrong time. And literally, I could not comprehend. I was like you grow up underneath this whole mantra that like as long as you go to college, you get a job, you don't cause any crime, you don't do anything wrong, you'll be fine. And in the reality, it's like, oh no, that's not right. Like it doesn't matter what you do, you could be perfect and you can still just get pulled over and just get shot because you put your hands on the steering wheel wrong or too fast. So it was that. And so understanding that I was like, you can either just be crazy or you can do something positive about it. And that was really when I was like, okay, I could say, oh, it's going to get better over time. Yeah, it's going to get better. Or I could go crazy and say, it's horrible. But then I decided, you know what? I'm going to do something about it. Like, I can't go crazy and I can't think it's going to get better unless I make it better. So I think that that's the best medium of the both worlds. It's one of the things like, you get pessimistic, it's just going to get worse. Idealist, oh, it'll be better sooner or later. Realist is like, all right, I'm going to make this shit better if I can. And that's really what I like to do.
Okay, Michael Jackson. Starting with the man in the mirror.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, boy. I actually love what you said about realizing that you're going to die one day. I'm kind of obsessed with death in a weird way these days. I'm actually going to show you guys that one of the kind of new mantras that I figured out for myself in my head is, I'll let you guys read it before I say it, that getting ready / preparing to, just getting ready to die.
I mean, he said we was going to read it before you.
No, in your heads, dude. I'm reading here, dude. The people like my voice. They don't like your voice. You're here in this fucking mask.
Ain't nobody come to see you, Otis.
You look like Sub-Zero in this motherfucking mask for no goddamn reason.
Exactly. Freeze your motherfucking
You have the
ass.
flu, but you don't really have the flu. I feel like I might have
because I'm sick when I spit it. I'm sick when I spit it.
Motherfuckers.
I got this ill flow.
Oh, that's what it is. Ah, shit. You should use that on your fucking next track, dude. That's kind of dope. But I guess I've been more and more exposed to like mortality and death and things that I'm fearful of recently that I just kind of Jesus Christ.
You're okay. Some water.
I'll be okay. But I'm starting to realize what you're kind of realizing, that yeah, you really do have one life. You know it, but you don't know it till you start to, I guess, I don't know, maybe people die around you, or you. I think everyone kind of has this eclipsing moment where maybe someone dies around them or someone close to them gets sick, and they kind of start to realize that mortality is a real thing and that life is fucking real. Yeah. Like you can die, and you might. You're probably not gonna, but you might die tomorrow, but you're definitely gonna die someday. And that moment will come where you're going to be just before death, and you're going to realize it's happening. And I think you definitely owe it to yourself. And this is going to sound fucking cliche, but you definitely owe it to yourself to have lived a life that's worth fucking living. And I think for whatever reason, we don't really recognize that as starkly as we should when we're just alive. But when we realize our mortality, it kind of hits home a little bit more. So I'm more and more just trying to remind myself of my mortality so I can fucking do something about it.
I'm just glad I had the opportunity of like realizing it and like seeing it before. Like right, exactly. It was that time like, oh shit, like, I'm still relatively young and I'm still relatively healthy and able to like, oh shit, I need to like appreciate this. Yeah. Like I guess like, and honestly I was like, is this my midlife crisis? And I'm like, I don't think this is my midlife. I was like, I hope this is not my midlife crisis. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah.
It's like your quarter life crisis.
Yeah, God willing. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to mention before we close out? Anything worse than death you want to bring up and celebrate?
Please vote for Elizabeth Warren for president. You can go to Elizabeth Warren.
Take 2 more shots.
ElizabethWarren.com to find out more.
My bad. Well, thank you for being on the show, man. We really appreciate you being here.
For sure.
Do we have why am I so bad at outros? Do we have an outro or no?
Thank you guys for listening. This has been another episode of the Knobheads. With our guest, Andre Wagner.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, we are your hosts, Charlie Miller and
David Ekunno. Please subscribe. Please like. Comment down below. I know we talked about some pretty contentious and controversial matters. Definitely chime in with what you think and what we might even talk about in the next episode. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bad bitches in my celly. Anime on the telly. Getting cheese, I like lettuce, bread, and I'm stacking bread like a